Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Unfinished Sketchbook. Okay, let's get technical. So this is a practice that I put off for a long time, and it was creating a color wheel because I didn't want to know the rules of color because, well, I didn't want to know them. But here's the thing. Once I made a color wheel, it changed everything for the better because I truly understood why I was using the colors I was using. I didn't change anything. I'm still using colors how I want to. It's just that I now know why I'm doing it. And I think it's pretty cool because I have a lot of possibilities that have opened up because of this. So I'm going to walk you through how I made my color wheel. There are a lot of tutorials out there on the YouTube. I just totally suggest that you try some of them out, but here's how I make mine. So I want to have a full disclaimer here. If you use craft paints, you're not going to get the same results that I have because craft paints aren't really good for mixing. They aren't really made for mixing. They're made for, crafting. And you will need a higher quality paint in order to have a color wheel that's going to have the true colors that you're looking for. So I am using Liquitex Basics. It's a student grade. It's by far not the most expensive or the best quality, but it is better than a craft paint. If all you have is craft paints, then by all means, you can give it a whirl, but don't get discouraged if you end up with a muddy mess. It's not you, it's the paint. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I drew my wheel, and I'm going to try to find a video to see if I can link in this video to show you how to draw that wheel. It took me forever to create that template, and yeah, I'm not very good at math and geometry, definitely. I also have 3 different colors of paint. I'm going with primary colors, and I'm going to go with traditional primary colors, so no magentas or anything. I'm going to go with a red, a blue, like a true blue, and then I believe that's a cadmium yellow. I'm not for sure, but it is, like I said, it is a true yellow. So I have a little palette on the left-hand side here, and it's just kind of a waxy paper so that I can keep my paint wet and I can manipulate it on that paper because I'm going to do some mixing. So I go across the top with a dollop of yellow, a dollop of red, and a dollop of blue. Now there's a little mixing tool that I have right there. You can get those at Walmart or Target, wherever you get craft supplies. Mine is a metal one. You could use a plastic one if you wanted. I like the smaller heads because they are truly for mixing. They're not actually for spreading paint. They're mixing. So I start off with the top of my wheel. I'm going to start with my yellow. So I take a little bit of that yellow paint and I just color in the space on the top of my color wheel, that section with nothing but yellow. Then I take that yellow and I go down below. So you'll see I'm working vertically. I go down below and I take just the teeniest amount of red and I mix it in. When I did that, I came up with this yellowy orange, and so I painted that in. I then took that yellowy orange and I went down another level. I took another smidgen of the red and I added it to that yellowy orange, and I ended up with an orangey orange. The final piece of this was I took that orangey orange, went down one more level, and took another little smidgen of the red paint, mixed it together, and I ended up with a truly deep orange, like a deep reddish orange. Now that I've done all 4 of those, I'm now going through and I'm adding a little bit of white because I want to see what happens when I add white to these colors. So again, I went back to my vertical column here. I added a little white to each one of those mixed swatches of paint. And underneath it in the true color, underneath the true color in the wheel, I added what the white version would be, or what the version that I have that has the white added to it, what that would look like. Then I go back and at the top of my color wheel, I write down the name of the paint, I write down the brand of the paint, and I try to write down like what grade it is. Is it student grade? Is it professional grade? Now I'm going to go through the same process with my red. So the first thing I do is I start with pure red and I color in that swatch. Then I'm going to take that pure red and I'm going to move down underneath it and I'm going to add just the teeniest amount of blue. So I want mostly red, a little bit of blue. Mix that together and I'm going to come up with like a burgundy color. I'm going to take a little bit of that color, go down another level, add another little smidge of the blue, and I think I got a little too much blue there, so I went back and got some more of my burgundy color and brought it down. I'm going to mix that up, and then I go in and I put a swatch next to it. And so now I've got this purpley, but again, it's way too blue because I added too much blue. So I'm going to go pick up some more red and then put that down in the color wheel. So my final thing is to take my bluish purple there that I had, and I'm going to pull it down, and I'm going to grab another little bit of blue. And so now this is going to be super, super blue purple. And I'm just going to go put it on the color wheel. So I did kind of goof up a little bit there because I did add a little too much blue. But hey, you know what? It's no big deal. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go back up my column and I'm going to add white to each one of those shades of red. So I love this color right here when I pull it out with the white. And I love how that blue is such a, oh, it's like a purpley sky blue, cornflower blue. Now here's where I had a little bit of trouble because I had messed up my column when I added too much blue. So I had to try to go back and recreate that purple and added a little bit of white to it. And that came out a really pretty color. And then we'll go to the burgundy. And I think I have just enough burgundy up there that I can add some white to. Problem is I never add enough paint when I first start on my color wheel. And so I always have to go back and recreate. And I don't know why I don't ever add enough paint. I made enough color wheels that I should know better, but I guess I don't want to waste it. Okay, so there's my burgundy, and then finally I'm going to take my true red, and I'm going to mix it with a little white, and I'm going to put it on the inside of the color wheel. And there you go. So now my reds are done, and I'll go through and I will mark where the true red is, and I will write down what brand, what kind, and what the actual name of the paint is. Okay, so here's my favorites. So these are my blues. So I'm going to start off with my true blue. By the way, you need to make sure that you clean your brush after each color. That's important because otherwise you're going to contaminate your true colors and you're not going to get a very good mixture. You'll have cross-contamination. All right, so we start off with true blue. Then I'm going to add just a smidgen of yellow, just a smidge. It's going to be mostly blue with a little bit of yellow. And so it's going to give me that nice deep bluish green. I'm going to pull that down to the next level, add a little more yellow. And I can see it's starting to turn green. Okay, I'm going to pull that green over, clean my brush, make sure it's nice and dry, And here's my green. Again, not enough paint. And definitely not enough paint on that one because you can see through to the paper, which is a big no-no. I should have made it more opaque. And then the last one, little bit of the green as I pull it down, and then lots of yellow. And again, because I ran out of my green paint, I had to add a little more blue. So if you are a professional color wheel maker, I know I've broke all the rules, but that's okay because I'm just playing. And I go and make color wheels from time to time just because they're fun. They're just so much fun to see the different color combinations. So now I'm going to go back up my column and I'm going to add my white to each one of my blue greens and my yellow green. That last one I put on there was yellow green. And again, this one coming up, I love this color. That's such a pretty color when you put white into it. And now my true blue with my white. And I'll fill that in. And I just get a smile across my face when I see that finished color wheel. I think it looks so cool. And then I'm going to take my excess paint because I never like to waste anything. And I'll just smush it over onto that page. And so, yeah, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write in the good stuff about the blue paint, and then I'm going to talk to you about what this color wheel, what I can now do with it. Okay, so here is our finished color wheel, and you can see that we got a pretty good idea of what these colors can do when we mix them. This is just to use as a guide when you're playing around with paints. You'll be able to refer back to this and say, okay, if I want something like for me personally, these colors right here are just screaming out to me. Then I know I can refer back to this and say, okay, when I created these colors right here, I used mostly blue, and then this blue had just a touch of the red. So mostly blue, but just a touch of the red. So whatever your color is, you're going to look to see what was the primary color that it was the closest to. So for example, if I really like this, it's almost like a celadon color or a celery. I just really like that color. So let's say I like this color and I want to recreate it. I got to go find what primary color is it the closest to. So it is closest to this yellow right here, and it has a lot of yellow, a teeny bit of blue, so just a little bit of blue. So whichever one it's closest to, that's the one you have the most color in. That's the one you've mixed this color into. And then because I went down a level, that means I added white to it. So I would take a lot of yellow, a tiny bit of blue, and add some white. And then I should be able to recreate this color. So the thing about color wheels is that, first of all, it's just fun to do. It's a good practice to do every once in a while, just because it helps to keep you fresh on your color mixing, and it reminds you of what colors you can create. But it also shows you how different paint brands and different just paints themselves will give you the different sorts of colors that you're looking for. For example, so these are golden paints. So this is an example of golden paints. So these are golden paints, and this is, if you look at this color wheel, it's super saturated. And you can tell how almost like there's a sheen on the paint, and that's just because of this type of paint, the way this paint is made. And this is a very good quality paint. So this is ochre yellow right here. And you can see that there's a little bit that you can see through to the paper. So it's got a little bit of translucence through it. And if you look right here, when you go to buy a bottle of paint, it'll show you its transparency. And so this just kind of gives you an idea. This is probably the highest quality paint I have versus the lowest quality paint that I have that's not a craft paint. So you can kind of see the difference. Like this is just a much more saturated paint, whereas this has a lot of white that comes through because there's a lot less pigment in the cheaper color of paints. So let's pull out another one. This is Liquitex. Let's see. Okay, so this is a Liquitex, and these guys are gonna be, let's see, here's this one right here. So this is a higher quality of this. So here's Liquitex Basics, and I believe this one was even like a value series, so it's even lower grade than just the Liquitex Basics. But this one, so here's it right here, and then here is this one right here. Okay, so you can kind of see this one's got a lot more pigment in it. It's a lot more saturated, a little less transparent or translucent. And this one is the complete opposite, but still has that really pretty ultramarine blue color. Now, this one is a heavy body, which means it's going to be a thicker paint. So you can see this is a thicker paint, whereas these guys were not heavy bodies. They were just, I don't even know that they have, it doesn't even say what kind of body they are. To me, they would just be, I guess, normal body. But heavy body just means it's got a lot thicker consistency. So even here you can see a difference. So yeah, here's Golden, here's the Liquitex Professional, and let's see, what's this one? So this is Liquitex Basics. So looks like I had done one in a Liquitex Basics, but I changed some of my yellows around. So here's where it gets kind of fun. So I just used, on this one, I used cadmiums. I used a cadmium yellow, a cadmium red. This one was light, this one was deep, and then this was an ultramarine blue. But there are different types of yellows. So for example, this is a Liquitex, and it was Professional, and this was a yellow Hansa. So this is what a yellow Hansa looks like, whereas that's what a cadmium looks like. So there's variations within the paints themselves. This is a completely different hue of yellow. This is a yellow ochre, so, or yellow oxide. So let me see if I can find my yellow oxide. Here's yellow ochre, and that's a golden, and it goes right here. So you can see that yellow, still considered yellow, but way more orange. Here's my yellow oxide. So there's yellow ochre, and then yellow oxide. And there's a lot of chemistry that goes into how pigments are created and paints are made, and it's kind of fascinating. I don't by any means know a lot. I know just a little, but there are tons of tutorials and videos out there, books that give you the science behind color theory and how to make color wheels, and even you can expand on it even more and go down to, you know, another level. So this was just like a little bit of white, so you can go down even farther. But anyway, this is just a good practice, and this is something that I like to have in a sketchbook just because it just, I mean, it's practice, it's play, it's color. And so now if I go back to where I started off with blues and then I did oranges and yellows, and then I mixed the two and I got gray. Well, that's because my blue and my orange, they're opposite of each other on the color wheel, and that means these guys are contrasts. So when these guys go together, my blue and my orange, they are going to create a lot of energy. They're going to create a lot of contrast within whatever I'm working on. And that's why this, like right here, looked so crazy and exciting and all over the place. It's because I had two contrasting colors. And so then to try to tone this down, I mixed the two contrasting colors. And so orange and blue, when you mix them together, you'll get like a Payne's gray, or you'll get a gray, and it can be a warm gray if you add more orange, or it can be a cool gray if you add more blue. So that's how I used these two to then tone themselves down. And then I started adding in some other paints. So I like to have this in my sketchbook because I love to refer back to it. If I'm looking for something that is going to be nice and calm, I'm going to look for colors that are complementary. They're colors that are going to be next to each other on the color wheel. And we'll do a couple sketchbook pages with some complementary colors coming up. If I want something that's got a lot of high energy and I want something that's going to cause like an immediate emotional reaction, I'm going to want to use things that are across each other on the color wheel. So like yellow and purple and red and green and the orange and the blue. Those things are going to cause a lot of high energy. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah, have fun experimenting with your color wheel. And just remember, you can't mess it up. Like, it's just practice. It's just play. But it's a really good exercise, and I encourage you to do this in your sketchbook.